From the outside, the Morgan household looked like the picture of perfection. White stone walls wrapped in warm Christmas lights, tall windows glowing with golden candles, and wreaths neatly hung on every door. But behind those walls, on a cold and silent Christmas morning in Denver, Colorado, 12-year-old Harper Morgan felt a loneliness that even the finest decorations couldn't hide. She lived surrounded by luxury, designer clothes, marble floors, private tutors, and every gift a child could dream of. Yet nothing filled the empty spaces left behind after the loss of her mother Olivia 2 years ago. Her father, Andrew Morgan, a wealthy corporate consultant, loved her deeply but drowned himself in work to escape his own grief. And so, in a house full of everything, the one thing Harper craved, warmth, was missing. She thought Christmas would be like the last, quiet, heavy, and hollow. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that heal the heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel so more people can enjoy stories like this. Harper woke up early, walking through the grand hallway where garlands draped the banisters and cinnamon-scented candles flickered softly. The Christmas tree touched the ceiling, decorated with glass ornaments from every corner of the world. Andrew had hired a professional decorator again, thinking it might make the season feel special. But Harper knew that decorations didn't erase memories. She wandered toward the kitchen, expecting silence. But instead, she found Marissa, their young maid, packing food into small containers. Marissa was 26, gentle in her movements, and new to the Morgans' home. She always smiled at Harper, always asked if she'd eaten, always offered her small moments of kindness that reminded her vaguely of the warmth she once knew. The morning passed quietly until Andrew rushed in with a complicated work emergency, something he promised he wouldn't deal with today. He grabbed his keys, told Harper he'd be back soon, and disappeared. The heavy front door closed, and the house felt like a giant empty shell again. Marissa noticed Harper sitting alone at the kitchen island, her chin resting on her arms, eyes staring at untouched pancakes. Without words, she gently placed a warm plate of food in front of her. Simple eggs, soft bread, and fresh fruit. Not the chef's meals, not rich pastries, not the fanciest options. Just warmth, just comfort. Harper ate slowly, watching Marissa tidy up with a soft hum of an old Christmas hymn. It was the first time all morning she didn't feel completely alone. Hours passed. Andrew didn't return. Snow began to fall outside, coating the streets and rooftops in pale silence. Harper spent the day drifting from room to room, passing gifts wrapped in shiny paper that meant nothing to her. When evening arrived, the house glowed with golden lights as if trying to hide the emptiness inside. Harper sat at the dining table, the enormous wooden surface filled with untouched food prepared by the chef before leaving early for the holiday. She stared at it all: steak, lobster, roasted vegetables, pastries, and felt sick. Something about all the abundance felt wrong. It felt wasteful. It felt hollow. Marissa entered quietly, still in her crisp black and white uniform, her hands stiff from working the entire day because most of the staff had taken Christmas off. Harper watched her pack a small, humble meal into a container: half a bowl of pasta, a piece of bread, and slices of leftover apple. It was nothing compared to the feast laid out across the table. Harper frowned and asked why she wasn't eating from the main spread. Marissa shyly said she preferred something simple and didn't want to take anything fancy home. But when Harper leaned forward and saw inside the container, something shifted inside her chest, an overwhelming wave of sadness she couldn't explain. In that moment, she saw two worlds side by side. On one side was her world: wealth, plenty, abundance she barely cared for. On the other side was Marissa's world: modesty, simplicity, humility, and quiet struggle. A sudden realization struck Harper like thunder. This humble food meant something to Marissa. It was what she would take home after a long day's work, maybe to share with her younger siblings she always talked about. That small, simple meal was her Christmas, and it was leftovers. Harper blinked hard as tears welled up. She had everything: a warm house, a decorated tree, expensive gifts, and yet her Christmas felt empty. Marissa had next to nothing, but she carried kindness like a second skin. Harper felt a deep ache, a guilt she didn't understand, a longing for the warmth she'd forgotten how to feel. She whispered a quiet apology under her breath, not sure why, not sure to whom, but the tears fell anyway. By the time Andrew returned, covered in snow and frustration, Harper was curled up on a chair beside the dining table, crying silently. He panicked and rushed toward her, asking what happened. When she looked up at him, her face wet and flushed, she didn't mention the loneliness or the fancy feast or the empty house. She simply pointed toward Marissa's small container of leftovers sitting on the table corner. Andrew stared at it, confused, until he slowly pieced together what had happened. He saw the untouched grand dinner on one end and the humble leftovers on the other. And for the first time in years, something inside him cracked open. He realized how far he had drifted from the simple idea of warmth. He realized that Christmas wasn't meant to be about abundance, but about presence, about compassion, about acknowledging the quiet struggles of the people around them. Andrew gently held Harper, his voice trembling as he promised he would change, truly change. When he turned to Marissa, who stood frozen in embarrassment, he thanked her, not as an employer, but as a father who had been blind for far too long. That night, he invited Marissa to sit at the table with them, not as an employee, but as part of the household. She hesitated, overwhelmed, but Harper tugged her hand softly, insisting she join. For the first time since Olivia had died, Andrew and Harper shared a meal with someone who brought warmth into their lives. The laughter was gentle, the moment fragile, but it felt like the slow healing of a wound they both carried. Later, Andrew packed a basket full of fresh food, warm blankets, and Christmas treats, and handed it to Marissa to take home to her family. She tried to refuse, but Andrew insisted with a sincerity she couldn't argue with. Harper added a small, handwritten card that said, "Thank you for making today feel like Christmas again." When the door finally closed behind her, the house didn't feel empty anymore. It felt alive. It felt human. If this story touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like the video, share it, and subscribe so these emotional stories can reach more people. Before you go, comment below. Kindness lives forever. And with that, the Morgan household experienced its first true Christmas since tragedy struck. A night not defined by wealth or gifts, but by a young girl's tears, a maid's simple leftovers, and a moment of awakening that mended a broken family from the inside out.